Ambassador, there are many things to discuss, the relationships between our two countries, the ongoing war in Ukraine. One of the very difficult episodes between the UK and Russia in recent years has been the events in Salisbury and what happened then. Now, an official inquiry this week was told that Russian-manufactured Novichok could have killed thousands of civilians on British streets. It's the UK's government's clear view that Russia was behind those attacks. Would you like to take this opportunity to apologise for that state-sanctioned act of terror?
Well, you know, Laura, it is quite a long time that is under so-called investigation. I think that we have put enormous amount of questions to the investigators. None of them has been answered at all, and we still expect that we will have a contact with Skripals because they are Russian citizens. We have asked many times, by the way, formally and informally, that we should talk to these people, and in order to establish truth, first of all, but we have no answer so far, at least. The only answer we have got from the Foreign Office recently that they do not want to talk to us. So we have to know whether it is true or not.
There is a clear view that the truth from 250 British detectives, from the Crown Prosecution Service, from the UK government, from the US government, from the French, the German, the Canadian governments, all of whom have said that Russia was behind this attack.
Too many governments are involved. Do they really take advice of each other? It is so. This is nonsense, really. And I really do not want to discuss it further because it has been explicitly explained during all these years. 5 years has passed. We arranged a big press conference here. Many questions has been answered about that. So why to drag this history so long and to continue into this? We do not really understand.
Well, this
the question is
issue.
The issue has been discussed, and we did have an opportunity to provide all the answers. So why now?
The reason for asking this now is that an official inquiry is underway
And that was
into
an
the
official
fact
inquiry.
that a British woman lost her life because of
Exactly.
these
Yes,
poisonings.
yes,
Now, the evidence is that the Novichok was manufactured in Russia.
Right.
The evidence
Laura,
is that
we-
two men, forgive me if I could finish my question. The evidence is that two men traveling on Russian passports were behind this attack. Governments around the world are convinced that Russia was behind it, and an inquiry in this country is taking place right now. If you think that nothing was wrong, perhaps those two men should go to testify at the inquiry in order to clear their names, should they?
I don't think so. They are Russian citizens. Perhaps if we're speaking about the same personalities, as far as I recall, it's an old days already, but they have given the answers on the television, even performing on the television, that's all right. As for other things, so, well, please, you have a Portdown laboratory over there. All answers, as far as I understand, has been provided not by police, but the Portdown laboratory, which is a very secret one. Even the husband, we have followed a bit this conversation, but the husband of the late lady, he has washed his hands with this liquid, as you see, so nobody has died. Him himself, obviously,
the clear evidence,
stayed alive.
The clear evidence that the UK government has and has shared with the world is that two Russian citizens known as Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Boshirov were responsible for this attack. You're saying it's nonsense.
No, I'm not
This is
saying
about
it's
a
nonsense.
British woman.
It was a big case which was initially staged to drive a week in the relationship between Russia and UK, which has served for a biggest scandal, which has been followed by expulsion of a number of the Russian diplomats, as well as expulsion by British diplomats, French, German. The same amount of diplomats has left Moscow. Is it good? I don't think so. It was a bad idea. It was initially just to stage this type of it.
Just to be clear on this point, though, the UK government is firmly of the belief that Russia was responsible and that Russian citizens, those two men that I named, were responsible. If, as you say, that is nonsense and it was staged, why don't they come and testify to the official inquiry that is taking place right now to clear it up? Because the fact is that the UK government does not believe what you're saying today. People listening to this will think that you are...
firmly believes that UK government is waging aggressive war against Russia by the hands of Ukrainians. This is a proxy war led by the United Kingdom's government by providing lethal weapons with which UK government is killing Russian soldiers and civilians.
You think that we are at war with your country?
I think that you are aggressive, or you're waging a proxy war against Russia.
We'll come to that in a moment. But in
Okay.
terms of Salisbury, do you have any words for the family of Dawn Sturgis, the British woman
I
who
do
was
not know.
innocent, who was
Perhaps-
killed?
Perhaps since it is at the very beginning, it's the third or fourth day of the listening, of the hearings, which takes place Salisbury someplace, then it will go to London, and what we see in the press, it is only one optics on the other side. But I also has seen dispatches from our questions that has been put, the statements by the Russian government to this end, statements by my minister, and so on. It is not reported in the press, unfortunately. It is just one side of the story that has been shown. I would appreciate very much that it will be two sides of the
Well,
story.
her family would like to hear the Russian side. In fact, her family would like Vladimir Putin
As far
to
as I
take part in
understand.
the inquiry.
As far as I remember, the husband of late Dan Sturgis, he was at this embassy and has met a Russian ambassador who was my predecessor, and they have seen each other. I hardly believe that President Putin will go to Britain just to testify, to do something.
But the family have asked for that. If it's not possible for that to take place, do you today, Ambassador, have any words for that grieving family?
I don't know. I have never met this family, so I am not involved in discussions with them or something else. So if someone has died, of course we are concerned about that.
The head of MI5 said this week that Russia had been on a mission to, in his phrase, generate sustained mayhem in this country. Ken McCallum said agents carried out arson, sabotage, and dangerous actions carried out with increasing recklessness. Does President Putin think he can intimidate this country by carrying out attacks like that?
Laura, I would like just to ask you, do you feel that there are acts of sabotage, arson, or something like that? Personally, do you feel it? Or
I'm asking you a question about
You
the
asked
view
me a
of the
question.
head of MI5.
FNL.
He's made that accusation against Russia.
Good.
What is your answer?
My answer will be that he is making these phrases, but he does not substantiate or saying facts. What is happening, but I understand the motives that are standing behind his statements. He is trying to pretend that Russia is in aggressive mood against the United Kingdom. The motive is that United Kingdom has associated itself very much with Ukrainian case. Ukrainian case is now close to lose it. They are losing it, and of course, UK government is also losing in this situation. So too much associated with this case, and to raise morale, of course, to make it wider, a wider scene of it. Guys like the head of MI5, they have to excuse huge material contributions that has been done by the United Kingdom to the Ukrainian case,
And we'll
and
come
of
to
course
the war
to
in
justify
Ukraine.
and just to justify what has been done.
But even before the
But
war in
even
Ukraine,
if you speak about an arson, which has taken place, I think, a year ago in some distant port, hearings just started. The conviction is that someone has a knife with him. We do not know who are these people, 5 or 6 of them who has participated in it. If you are speaking about a letter, which was a sensation of yesterday, of course, I have carefully read what has been said by Metropolitan Police. There is no Russian angle in what they have said. Russian angle has been added by the Guardian reporters to it.
and yet there is evidence, Ambassador, of Russia carrying out attacks on British soil long before the war in Ukraine. The Salisbury attacks were before in the war in Ukraine.
No, we
The death
discussed
of Alexander
Salisbury.
Litvinenko was before the war
Okay.
in Ukraine. So can I just
Let's put
ask
it
you
like-
again, are you saying
Yeah.
that the head of MI5 in this country and intelligence bosses in other countries around the world are fabricating the idea that Russia is carrying out attacks and trying to increase actions of sabotage in
Laura,
Western countries?
We I heard you. I heard also and read what it is in our answer. It's very simple. If there is something to discuss, then we have appropriate channels to do it. These appropriate channels are both open here in London and in Moscow. Please come, and we will discuss it, not for the newspapers, as it is always trying to make a sensation.
So are you
but
inviting
discussing
the head of MI5 to come and talk to you about this? Would you like
not
that to
to me,
happen?
but he knows to talk to whom. And not only head of the MI5, but also other heads of it. They are doing it. Believe me, they are doing it. And they're discussing. But so far, we do not have a substance to discuss.
You've mentioned the conflict in Ukraine, and when we last spoke about 18 months ago, you told us of Russia's superior might. You said it was 16 times bigger than Ukraine and that you would prevail. If that was true, that Russia would prevail, why haven't you won yet?
And this is what is happening during what I have said. It is absolutely true.
Well, the war's still going on.
You have heard Zelensky yesterday. He was desperate. He fully understands that he is losing not only terrain, but he is losing the conflict. I wouldn't say the war, but I wouldn't say that they are going to surrender tomorrow. They still continue to resist, but the resistance is more feeble and feeble. We are now attacking at least at 7 or 6 or 8 points on the front, and each day brings new gaining of terrain. And this is, I just preventing your next question. This is not a kind of a mid-Grinder attacks at all. So we are attacking now by small but very mobile units with heavy preparedness of preparation before that of artillery, which is showing very low losses. But every day we are gaining more and more terrain. If we continue like that, then I do not know what's going to happen.
Well, if you're gaining terrain, then when will you win by? Because it's curious, our viewers will remember 18 months ago, you told us with seeming great confidence that Russia would prevail, that you were so much bigger than Ukraine, that you had all this military might. And then 18 months later, we have this dreadful stalemate where soldiers from both countries are losing their lives day after day after day.
Laura, I would advise you to read more attentively the newspapers, especially in the recent days. So they are depicting what is happening in Kursk area. Half of what has been captured by Ukrainian troops has been already liberated. The other half will be liberated soon because there are rains over there. A large scale of our advancement over there, it has been reflected even by people like Galeotti, for instance, who is very much anti-Russian, but all the others as well. They are writing about the desperate state of Ukraine itself. And if UK would like to stay with Ukraine as long as it takes, the end of this phrase will mean the end of Ukraine until it takes.
What do you mean by that?
By that, it will be the defeat is in view. I wouldn't say that it's happened tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. What is worrying us is that there is no peace plan in the peace plan presented by Zelensky. He does not want to peace negotiations. He continues to ask for more and more NATO, European Union assistance, defense packages, anything, but nothing about negotiations at all.
Well, he's been very clear he won't negotiate with you.
He won't negotiate with us? Fine. Then he will lose more and more terrain.
But when you say the end is in view, in your own country, thousands of young lives are being lost. The economy is under great strain in financing the war. What do you mean, in view? Because what the world sees is a terrible stalemate with one huge country under enormous strain, with deep unhappiness and huge economic problems, and a smaller country that is fighting very hard with the huge support of Western allies. And you say it's in view, the end is in view. What do you mean?
Interesting view you are presenting is...
That's the truth.
Speak about the losses. I will say that it is common knowledge that two sides in conflict, one side is always exaggerating the losses of the other side and diminishing its own losses. It's a fact of life, happened all the time. What we have on the front, it is we have professionals now in the fighting field. They are not conscripts, but they are fighting on contracts. This is easy. What we have on the Ukrainian side is a territorial defense, which is always running after the first exchange of shooting. Speaking about economy, I can assure you that the prediction last year it was the growth of GDP was 3.6%. The prediction for this year is nearly the same by the World Bank, 3.5%. What is the percentage in England?
Your military is projected to spend, by your own government's announcement, more than £100 billion in 2026 on maintaining this war. But your own finance ministry has admitted to worsening external conditions, lower oil prices, declining international trade and tougher sanctions, and no young people left to fill your factories. Isn't it the truth that your country is suffering because of this conflict and there is no end in sight? And
Laura,
perhaps you here in London,
I
tucked
was in
away
my
safely
country,
in these grand surroundings, aren't in touch with what's going on at home.
I was several times in my country in the recent year. I didn't discover any kind of decline. It is absolutely prosperous. It is full of all other journalists that those who would like to visit my country, they are welcome to see it. So we have no decline. We have recovered our economy, if not this year, but last year already. It has gone up very quickly, and it continued to go up much quicker than the economies of the Big Seven or European Union. We are entered now big 10 industrialized country where we have taken your place, by the way, it's number 7. And UK is now out of this 10 most industrialized country. Isn't it a bad impact on the
Well, the UK
economy?
is still regularly ranked 6th or 7th biggest economy in the world. And
yes.
your own finance ministry, as I've said,
the
has
last
admitted that
place,
things
yes,
are
of course,
getting worse. Are you comfortable, as an experienced diplomat of many decades, with having to rely on support from pariah states like North Korea and Iran?
I wouldn't say that it is for you, perhaps. It is pariah states. For us, it's normal people. We have been friends and we have a lot of common interests with North Korea and with Iran itself. It is simply people, just the governments. And although if they are taking different position and different views, it doesn't mean that we should disregard a relationship with them. Yes, we did strike an agreement which has actually a repetition of an older agreement with North Korea. Anything bad, we do not see it. So this is a country which is our neighbor. We have a lot of tourists, by the way, in the North Korea right now, as well as in Iran. And they are on the map, they do exist, and no one should ignore them.
They are normal countries, you say?
Absolutely.
Those countries without democracy who
As
persecute
well as the
political
others,
prisoners?
as well as Chagos, people, for instance, as well as Falkland Island, as well as all the others. These are simple people whose rights we have to protect.
Let's talk about a country that's definitely also part of this very important international jigsaw about America. Obviously, there's an election there in a matter of weeks. President Biden has been a passionate supporter of Ukraine. Would you like his Vice President, Kamala Harris, to be in the White House, or do you worry that she would do the same?
For us, it doesn't make any difference at all, whether it will be Trump, Democrats, or it will be Republicans, because there is a two parties consensus on the subject of Russia, and this is anti-Russian sentiment, anti-Russian position. They are continue to state that Russia should be defeated strategically and all that stuff. They do not want to look into the eyes of reality. So for us, we will see what's going to happen. If it will be Mrs. Harris, she is proclaiming that she will continue to wage the war. If it is good for Ukraine, I'm not sure. It will lead only to destruction of Ukraine.
It's interesting you say there would be no difference. Donald Trump would be no different to a Democrat in the White House?
I mean, for us, we do not believe in a difference because it is obvious that if, as I have already explained, do not want to repeat, for us, it will not make a serious difference to it.
Is Donald Trump not a friend of Vladimir Putin?
He says sometimes things like that, but I have never heard that Vladimir Putin is saying the same.
Do you know if the two men have been in contact? It's been suggested they have been in contact since Donald Trump left the White House.
I don't remember. Once, really, they have met each other at one of the summits, but that is over.
When you talk about the war, and clearly it is a huge strain for the countries involved, how long can it go on? Or will there just be this never-ending, what's known as the meat grinder, with thousands of young lives being lost because of this, because as a product of decisions that Vladimir Putin has taken? How long
No,
can it
this is
go?
not because of decision of Vladimir Putin.
We could stop the war right now.
The conflict drags now since 2014, after there was an illegal turn up in Kiev and illegal seizure of power by people in Maidan, with support of European Union, France, Germany, UK, and United States. So it drags for already 14 years. I can tell you that at every moment we wanted to have an arrangement, political diplomatic arrangement. We tried to do it after immediately a year after, in 2015, Minsk agreements were over there. By Minsk agreements, it was Lugansk and Donetsk were making part of Ukraine
And that
autonomously.
agreement, as you well know, is
But,
unacceptable to the governments of
it has
Ukraine,
dragged
to
for
Western
seven-
governments.
dragged
So
for 7
my
years.
question is about now.
No.
When will Putin end this
to
war?
understand what's happening now, one have to get into genesis of the conflict, because it brings the reasons of the conflict and the origins of the conflict. And that is why, if one would like to understand that, then you have to study, first of all, the history of it. It is not a long one, but there are two things that should be done inevitably. One is that Ukraine should remain neutral and non-nuclear country in accordance with its constitution. It is written in its constitution. And second, which not much people are speaking about, that human rights should be re-established in Ukraine in full size. I mean human rights of the other nations, exception Ukrainian. Russians, Hungarians, Romanians, all those who are living there, all these laws against them about extermination and discrimination should be abolished. The rights of the Church, Orthodox Church, which was the biggest in Ukraine, which is now forbidden, prohibited in Ukraine, should be re-established as well.
Viewers who followed this carefully might find it extraordinary to hear you sit and say that part of the solution has to be Ukrainians guaranteeing security for Russians in their country.
Of course.
Isn't the truth here that you and Vladimir Putin are both sitting in grand luxury, refusing to budge, while thousands of civilians, Russians and Ukrainians, are suffering as a result of this conflict, which your government could bring to an end, and yet you persist with it?
Well, stop the flow of armaments to the Ukraine, and the conflict will be resolved the day after tomorrow.
Is there any chance that
To
Vladimir
stop the
Putin...
armament supplies,
Is
do
there
it.
any chance that Vladimir Putin will budge? Because it may be that he will put such strain on his country that in the end it will be impossible for him to hold on.
Laura, it's a wrong assumption that there is a big strain, as I told you, economically on Russia. Russia lives with its own absolutely normal life. We are in favor of speediest political negotiated solution over there. But we do not feel a reciprocity. No one, neither Ukrainian president nor his government, neither officially, none of the NATO government are speaking about negotiations. What we
Because
should
they're
do in
very
this-
clear that they believe it was an illegal invasion on your side, so they don't.
So
you,
what?
you know that they don't want
Okay.
to negotiate.
What-
But can I ask you?
What do you want? That we will finish it unilaterally? No, it will not happen. So we are not going to just say, okay, since tomorrow we do not shoot each other. We want to settle this conflict forever and on a normal terms, the terms that will guarantee Europe, us, and Ukraine normal security guarantees, like it is in a by the way, there is a study of NATO enlargement published in '95, and it says that any enlargement of NATO should serve European security and non-division of it. There are lots of things in it which is right things, but it has been abandoned. NATO has enlarged against Russia, and now official ideology of NATO is that Russia should be destroyed and defeated.
Does this suffering in this war ever keep you awake at night?
No one likes the war, so no one likes the war, and we stand for as quickest diplomatic and political settlement, and we expect the same from the others.
But does the suffering and the loss of life as it drags on, does it ever cause you to stay awake at night?
Yes, well, sometimes I feel like I expect and I anticipate the end of it, the quickest end of it, and I hope that it will end sometime. I do not. No one would like to drag it for a long time.
You say everything's fine in Russia. Many people disagree, including some people who our viewers have got to know on this program. We spoke recently to the Kara-Murzas. You know that Vladimir Kara-Murza was a democracy activist who was recently released in a prisoner exchange between your government and others. He wants you to know that he will go back to Russia one day. Isn't people like him and Yulia Navalny, the wife of Alexei Navalny, aren't they the future of Russia? A move to democracy one day?
I don't think so. They are popular in the West, and even Kara-Murza, when he was in the prison, there was a lot of attention to him, of course, to what he's saying, to what he's doing. It is here in the West. When he was released, it was one-day story, his press conference. Have you seen him in the recent days someplace, or Yulia Navalny? I haven't. And nothing has appeared in the press. So we are losing interest to him either.
So you think people in Russia don't care about democracy?
We have a democratic country in our way of it. It is democracies has various faces. It is not my saying. Has been said many times, and especially well, if we will judge this or that democracy, so it differs. Of course, one differs from the others.
Some people believe, though, that your form of democracy, as you call it, a different way of democracy, involves persecution and killing of political opponents. Since we last spoke, Alexei Navalny lost his life. His family, many governments believe that Vladimir Putin's responsible for his death, and it was murder. What was the cause of his death?
His death, well, it has been stated many times, also by medical service. Well, people is dying sometimes it is immediately, and in every country. He was prepared, actually his case was prepared for an exchange with the others. It is common knowledge. And what has happened, it is just a loss of, I do not know, I'm not going into the medical terms, but our desire was, like with Kara-Murza, was to exchange him with the others just in this exchange that has taken place. What else?
So that was your plan, was to exchange
No,
Alexei Navalny?
it was widely it was announced also by my president that he's a part of an exchange.
So why did it not take place?
I do not know. It is up to him. So, you know that in immediate death we have not to discuss this. It's a medical case.
Last month, President Putin issued a threat saying that any Western, advanced Western missiles, any Western attack could result in nuclear retaliation. Except
not exactly. This is not exactly what he has said.
So what is the nature of President Putin's view on when a nuclear retaliation might be justified?
President Putin has never said about a nuclear retaliation. What he has said basically is that we are changing our doctrine. In a sense, it was a thing that is connected with a discussion which is still underway here about an option of missiles, long-range missiles, can strike Russian territory. It is not only discussed in the press, but it is discussed by specialists. I can assure you, our view is, and I have come to the beginning of our conversation, that how it happens in detail. It is Ukraine can indicate a target deep inside. All the rest will be done by the United Kingdom, because targeting, flight plan, then information from the satellites, and push itself can be issued only by the UK specialist if we are talking about this rocket that has been supplied for it. What is it? So President Putin has said that UK in this case will be in a complex, going together with Ukrainian forces. And we have to reconsider this situation, yeah? And some measures, of course, will be prepared. He didn't mention nuclear option. By the way, Minister Lavrov later on said that we have enough of conventional options to answer, not to retaliate, but to answer. The plans are in the general stuff. I'm not speaking about that. But believe me, we are prepared to answer. What will be the answer? Then we will see if it is going to happen.
However, the head of NATO has said so far, President Putin may have made these kinds of threats, but NATO has been able to call his bluff. It's a sign of weakness to make these kinds of threats, isn't it? Not a sign of strength.
It is a bluff. It is the pronunciation by the chief of NATO. That's a bluff. Because we are going to protect our security interests and our security with all means that are in our disposal. And believe me, there are lots of them.
You are a diplomat of many decades of service, and you've seen many things and many changes. As we started at the beginning, there have been many difficult moments for our two countries in its relationships. But I wonder, can you see a time when these difficulties will pass? And do you have any hope that our two countries may be able to rebuild their relationship and move through this very difficult time?
You know, this question is been put to me on daily basis by many people here, by businessmen, ordinary British politicians, journalists, yes, journalists, and all the time. I strongly believe that a time will come. We have a history of 450 years of relationship, and if your government has taken a wrong position, sooner or later it has to acknowledge that this position is a position of a loser. When they will realize that they are losing this case and it was wrong, then perhaps a time will come then we will have a discussion, a good discussion, and we'll come back to terms.
But are you prepared to make compromises in order to reach that position?
Compromise is a good thing, but we didn't start it. We didn't start to spoil a relationship, to cut off all ties that are connecting us. So the initiative is on the side of the British government, I guess.
Ambassador Kellan, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us today.
Sure.
Thank you for
Thank you
inviting
very
us
much
back
for
to
your
the
questions.
Thank you.